Genghis Khan, the man who built the largest empire in history. Entire kingdoms vanished before his armies. Cities that had stood for centuries were reduced to ashes in a matter of days. Kings trembled at the mere rumor of his approach, while merchants carried terrifying stories across continents of an unstoppable force riding out of the endless grasslands of Mongolia. To many, he was history's greatest destroyer. To others, he was one of the greatest military geniuses who ever lived. His empire would stretch from the Pacific Ocean to the borders of Europe, becoming the largest contiguous land empire humanity has ever known. His campaigns reshaped civilizations, transformed global trade, and forever changed the balance of power across Asia and Europe. Yet none of this seemed possible when his story began. He was born into a struggling family on the harsh Mongolian steppe. Before reaching adulthood, he had lost his father, watched his tribe abandon his family to starve, lived as an outcast, and fought simply to survive another winter. Most people in his position would have disappeared into history without leaving a trace. Instead, this forgotten boy would rise to command an army unlike anything the world had ever seen. His name became synonymous with conquest, fear, and ambition. Even today, more than 800 years after his death, historians continue to debate a question that has never truly been answered. Was Genghis Khan a ruthless barbarian responsible for unimaginable destruction? Or was he a visionary leader who united divided peoples, revolutionized warfare, and laid the foundations for a new era of global connection? To understand the man behind the legend, we must journey back to a world of endless grasslands, brutal winters, tribal rivalries, and constant warfare. Because long before he conquered empires, he was simply a boy named Temujin. Part 1, The Boy Named Temujin. Long before the world knew him as Genghis Khan, he was simply a boy named Temujin. Born around 1162 near the Onon River, Temujin grew up on the harsh Mongolian steppe, a land of endless grasslands, freezing winters, and constant tribal warfare. Life was unforgiving. Survival depended on strength, skill, and loyalty. His father, Yasugei, was a respected tribal leader who hoped his son would inherit his position. But when Temujin was only 9 years old, Yasugei was poisoned by rival Tatars and died soon afterward. Everything changed overnight. Without their leader, the tribe abandoned Temujin's family. His mother, Holun, was left alone with several children and almost no resources. They survived by gathering wild plants, catching fish, and hunting small animals. Hunger became part of everyday life. As the family struggled to survive, tensions grew. During a dispute over food, Temujin killed his older half-brother Bektar, a shocking act that revealed just how brutal life on the steppe had become. His hardships were far from over. Soon, Temujin was captured by the rival Taikiya tribe and forced into slavery. With a heavy wooden collar locked around his neck, his future seemed hopeless. But one night, he escaped. A local family risked their own lives by hiding him from his pursuers. It was a simple act of loyalty that Temujin would never forget. These years shaped everything he would later become. He learned that power could disappear in an instant, that loyalty was more valuable than noble birth, and that survival belonged to those who refused to give up. The abandoned boy who had once struggled to find his next meal was about to begin a journey that would change the course of world history. Part 2, Rise of a Leader. After escaping captivity, Temujin had almost nothing. No powerful army, no wealth, and no tribe willing to follow him. If he wanted to survive, he would have to earn people's trust. His first step was marrying Borte, the woman his father had promised him years earlier. Their marriage strengthened important tribal alliances, but their happiness was short-lived. Soon after, Borte was kidnapped by the Merkit tribe. Instead of acting alone, Temujin sought help from Togrul, ruler of the Khwarazm tribe, and his childhood blood brother, Jamuka. Together, they defeated the Merkits and rescued Borte. The victory gave Temujin something even more valuable than revenge, it gave him a reputation. Warriors began joining him because he offered something rare on the Mongolian steppe. Instead of promoting men based on noble birth, he rewarded loyalty, courage, and ability. Even a common herdsman could become a commander if he proved himself. This made Temujin different from every other tribal leader. As his influence grew, his friendship with Jamuka turned into rivalry. Jamuka believed power belonged to noble families. Temujin believed it belonged to those who earned it. Their disagreement led to years of conflict. Although Temujin suffered early defeats, he learned from every battle. He built a disciplined army, organized his warriors into efficient military units, and demanded absolute loyalty. Tribe after tribe either joined him willingly or was defeated in battle. By 1206, most of the Mongolian steppe had been united under his rule. At a great assembly known as the Kurultai, tribal leaders proclaimed him Genghis Khan, a title often translated as universal ruler. The abandoned boy who had once fought simply to stay alive had become the leader of a united Mongol nation. But uniting the tribes was only the beginning. Beyond the steppe lay some of the richest and most powerful empires in the world, and Genghis Khan was already planning to conquer them. Part 3, Building the Ultimate War Machine. Uniting the Mongol tribes was only the first step. To conquer powerful empires, Genghis Khan needed an army unlike any the world had ever seen. His greatest innovation was meritocracy. Promotions were not based on family name or noble birth, but on skill, courage, and loyalty. The best warriors became commanders, no matter where they came from. This created an army where every soldier had something to fight for. Organization was equally important. The Mongol army followed a simple but highly effective decimal system. Units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000 men allowed commanders to move, reinforce, and coordinate forces with remarkable speed. Discipline was absolute. Cowardice, desertion, or disobeying orders could bring severe punishment. At the same time, loyalty and bravery were generously rewarded. Every warrior understood that the success of the army came before personal glory. The Mongols were also unmatched horsemen. Each soldier traveled with several horses, switching mounts throughout a campaign. This allowed the army to cover incredible distances while remaining fresh. Combined with deadly horse archers who could shoot accurately at full speed, they became one of the fastest military forces in history. But Genghis Khan relied on more than speed. His commanders gathered intelligence long before an invasion began. Scouts mapped enemy territory, estimated troop numbers, and identified weaknesses. Battles were often won before they even started. Communication was another key advantage. A relay network known as the Yam allowed messages, supplies, and orders to travel across the empire with remarkable speed. This enabled Genghis Khan to coordinate armies separated by hundreds of miles. Logistics made long campaigns possible. Rather than depending on long supply lines, Mongol warriors carried dried meat, fermented milk, and traveled with spare horses, making the army highly mobile and difficult to stop. Finally, Genghis Khan mastered psychological warfare. Cities that surrendered were often spared. Those that resisted could face devastating consequences. News of these victories spread quickly, convincing many enemies to surrender without a fight. It was this combination of merit, discipline, mobility, intelligence, and fear that made the Mongol army different from every other military force of its time. Now, Genghis Khan was ready to test his new war machine against the great empires of Asia. Part 4, Conquering the World. By 1209, Genghis Khan had united the Mongol tribes. Now, his attention turned beyond the steppe. His first target was the Western Xia Kingdom in northwestern China. The campaign wasn't just about expansion. Genghis Khan needed control of key trade routes and wanted neighboring states to recognize Mongol power. Using rapid cavalry attacks and relentless pressure, the Mongols forced Western Xia to surrender. Rather than destroying the kingdom, Genghis Khan accepted its submission, securing valuable resources and an important ally for future campaigns. His next challenge was far greater. The Jin Dynasty ruled northern China with millions of people, massive cities, and one of the strongest armies in Asia. Many believed the nomads stood no chance. Instead of attacking head-on, Genghis Khan avoided heavily defended fortresses, cut supply lines, and divided enemy forces. His cavalry struck unexpectedly before disappearing into the vast countryside, leaving the Jin army unable to respond effectively. In 1215, the Mongols captured Zhongdu, present-day Beijing. It was a devastating blow that proved even powerful empires could fall before the Mongol war machine. But Genghis Khan's most famous campaign began with a diplomatic disaster. Seeking trade, he sent a caravan of merchants to the Khwarazm Empire in Central Asia. The governor of the border city accused them of spying and executed them. Genghis Khan then sent diplomats demanding justice. Instead of negotiating, the Khwarazm Shah ordered one ambassador executed and the others humiliated. For Genghis Khan, this was more than an insult. It was a declaration of war. In 1219, he launched one of the greatest military campaigns in history. Rather than advancing with a single army, he divided his forces into multiple columns that attacked from different directions simultaneously. Cities expecting one invasion suddenly found Mongol armies appearing where no one thought they could. Major cities such as Bukhara, Samarkand, and Urgench fell one after another. Many surrendered. Those that resisted often faced brutal destruction, sending a terrifying message to every city still considering resistance. Within just a few years, the once powerful Khwarazm Empire had collapsed. The conquest opened the gates to Central Asia, where Mongol forces pushed farther west than ever before. Their speed shocked every opponent. Some armies were defeated before they even realized the Mongols had entered their territory. By the early 1220s, Mongol armies had reached parts of Persia. Several Persian cities were captured, while local rulers struggled to organize an effective defense against an enemy that refused to fight by traditional rules. Every victory expanded Genghis Khan's influence, but it also spread fear across the known world. Stories of the Mongols traveled faster than their armies, convincing many rulers that surrender was safer than resistance. In little more than a decade, Genghis Khan had transformed a collection of nomadic tribes into the most feared military power on earth. Yet with every conquest, one question grew harder to answer. Was he creating a new world order? Or simply leaving destruction in his wake? Part 5. The Dark Side. Genghis Khan is remembered as one of history's greatest conquerors, but also one of its most controversial. His military campaigns brought enormous success to the Mongol Empire, yet they also caused immense human suffering. When cities surrendered peacefully, they were often spared and allowed to continue paying tribute under Mongol rule. But when they resisted, the consequences could be devastating. Several major cities, including Nishapur, Urgench, and Merv, were heavily destroyed during Mongol campaigns. Contemporary chroniclers described large-scale massacres, although the exact numbers remain impossible to verify. Some medieval sources claimed that hundreds of thousands, or even millions, were killed during individual sieges. Most modern historians believe these figures were greatly exaggerated, but they agree that the overall loss of life was enormous. Fear itself became one of Genghis Khan's most effective weapons. News of destroyed cities spread rapidly across Asia. As a result, many rulers chose to surrender without fighting, hoping to avoid the same fate. In this way, psychological warfare often saved the Mongols from long and costly sieges. The destruction extended beyond the battlefield. Cities were burned, farmland was devastated, and entire populations were displaced. Regions that had once been thriving centers of trade and culture sometimes took decades to recover. Yet history presents a more complex picture than simple destruction. After conquest, the Mongols often restored trade routes, protected merchants, and allowed many religions to coexist within their empire. Their rule brought stability to vast regions that had previously been divided by constant warfare. This contrast continues to divide historians today. To some, Genghis Khan was a ruthless conqueror whose campaigns caused unimaginable devastation. To others, he was a military genius who united much of Eurasia and reshaped the course of world history. Perhaps both views contain part of the truth. Part 6, Death and Mystery. By 1227, Genghis Khan had spent nearly 2 decades conquering vast territories across Asia. But one enemy still remained, the Western Xia kingdom. After previously submitting to Mongol rule, Western Xia rebelled while Genghis Khan was campaigning elsewhere. He responded with one final military campaign, determined to crush the rebellion once and for all. The Mongol army advanced relentlessly, capturing city after city. But during the campaign, something unexpected happened. Genghis Khan died. The exact cause of his death remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Some historical accounts suggest he died after falling from a horse. Others claim he succumbed to illness, possibly brought on by the hardships of the campaign. More dramatic legends tell of battle wounds or even assassination, but there is no reliable historical evidence to support those stories. What historians do agree on is that Genghis Khan died in August 1227, before the campaign had fully ended. Even in death, secrecy surrounded him. According to tradition, his body was carried back to Mongolia and buried in a hidden location. The exact site of his tomb has never been confirmed. Over the centuries, many expeditions have searched for his final resting place, but none has produced conclusive evidence. Several possible locations have been proposed, particularly in the Khwarazm Mountains, yet the mystery remains unsolved. Whether by design or by chance, the grave of one of history's most powerful rulers has never been found. His empire, however, was far from finished. After his death, his sons and grandsons continued expanding Mongol rule, creating an empire that stretched across much of Eurasia. The man who had begun life as an abandoned boy on the Mongolian steppe was gone. But the world he created was only beginning to take shape. Part 7, Legacy. When Genghis Khan died in 1227, his empire already stretched across much of Asia. Under his sons and grandsons, it expanded even further, becoming the largest contiguous land empire in history, covering territory from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe. His conquests transformed more than borders. For the first time in centuries, vast regions of Eurasia were connected under a single political system. This period, often called the Pax Mongolica, made travel and trade significantly safer across much of the Silk Road. Merchants, diplomats, and travelers could move between east and west with greater security than before. The exchange of goods increased dramatically. Silk, spices, precious metals, and other valuable products crossed continents, while ideas, technologies, and knowledge spread alongside them. Chinese inventions such as papermaking and gunpowder reached new regions, while scientific and cultural exchanges flourished across Eurasia. Inside the empire, Genghis Khan introduced a legal code known as the Yasa. Although its exact contents have not survived, historical sources suggest it emphasized military discipline, loyalty, justice, and order. These laws helped govern a diverse empire made up of many different peoples and cultures. Religious tolerance also became an important feature of Mongol rule. Buddhists, Muslims, Christians, and followers of traditional beliefs were generally allowed to practice their faiths, as long as they remained loyal to the empire and paid their taxes. Genghis Khan's military innovations influenced generations of commanders. His emphasis on mobility, intelligence gathering, discipline, and coordinated cavalry operations changed the way wars were fought, inspiring military leaders long after the Mongol Empire declined. Yet his legacy remains deeply divided. To many, he was a brilliant strategist who united the Mongol tribes and created one of history's most influential empires. To others, he was a ruthless conqueror whose campaigns brought widespread destruction and suffering. Even today, researchers continue to debate aspects of his legacy. One well-known genetic study suggested that millions of men may share a common paternal lineage dating back to Genghis Khan or his close relatives. While this theory has attracted significant attention, it remains debated, and historians cannot state with certainty that the lineage belongs directly to Genghis Khan himself. More than 800 years after his death, few historical figures continue to inspire as much admiration, controversy, and fascination. Whether remembered as a visionary empire builder or one of history's most feared conquerors, Genghis Khan permanently changed the course of human history.